All right, so you've multi-tracked your band and you want to mix in Logic Pro, but you're not sure exactly where to start. Well, at least today I can show you what I do to take your band from sounding like this.
Those days are gone forever, over a long time ago.
To sounding like this.
Over a long time ago. Oh yeah.
Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this one.
I'm one of the lucky people. Your love is making me strong. I've had enough. I'm bad now. I need something I can be proud.
This is a band practice, right? So these are songs we're learning, so don't expect perfection here. However, I think it's really cool what some of these features in Logic are that allow you to sort of clean up a mix, and we're going to use a lot of the internal stock plugins today for Logic Pro, and I'll show you what I do when it comes time for mixing, my home studio live recording. So I think what I'll do is next up I'll pan to maybe a quick video just of the setup and the mics used and kind of what it looks like in the room, and then we'll jump back here and I will show you some cool tricks in Logic for doing this quickly. And again, the reason why I record band practice is so that everybody has that opportunity to sort of listen back to how it sounded, maybe make some changes for the next practice, and it just gives me a lot of practice mixing a live band, which is, in my opinion, one of the most challenging things to do, is trying to take 5 musicians in a room and a lot of loud sources all together and make it sound good. So stick with me, I'll show you how we do this. Okay, so this is my home studio, and I guess we'll start over here. Vocals, Mike will just use his own mic. It's different every week, but I do have a little sound absorption against the wall there. Guitar, just one mic, SM57, that's actually a clone. Miking a speaker cabinet. This could be my PV or Trainer or whoever's guitar amps in this case. Today we're doing rewind band, so it'll be Sheldon's guitar amp. Keyboards, you try and do as much direct recording as you can. So I just have a 12-channel mixer here that any keyboards and external audio stuff can go into. So keyboards are all direct. Bass guitar, also direct. So first what I do is, coming out of my pedal board, I'll go into a radial DI, and then I just take that clean signal back to the desk. And so, I'm coming through an amp here, but I am not miking the amp. I've tried it. I mean, for certain songs it can be okay, but generally speaking, I prefer the direct signal. So that's pretty, we got drums. And the drums, of course, we got some overheads, and just kind of measure these off of the snare. There's some more of these SM57 copies that I have for the toms, right? Kick mic, I'm using an Audix D6. Now, Harry, our percussionist here, also sings, so that's another interesting thing that I'll show you. That's one of the hardest things to do, is kind of isolate all that bleed. But I use 2 different mics for the snare, an SM57, and then I just have a small diaphragm little pencil condenser. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't, but that seems to be a pretty good setup for drums. I've tried room mics, I've tried other stuff, and if you're doing one song and you want to do it all really well, then there's a lot of different things you can do. But what I've found is less is more when you're all in this room together. Sound is bouncing everywhere. So let's jump over to the console and see what we do.
But you'll never be satisfied.
So before we begin, let's just talk setup real quick. if you don't utilize templates, I highly recommend getting familiar with that. The way that I did it is the first time I tried to record band practice, I got all the levels set on the preamps and everything, made sure nothing was clipping, making sure the gain structure is all good, and then I just adjusted, the levels of stuff. My template, so I send all these drums to a respective bus so that I have all the drums. I'll usually do a parallel compression channel, so I have, this to turn on when we're ready. Use a reverb. I like to put bass, vocals, and stuff to their own aux track, but I'll usually do that later. So, there's not much on here, just some basic panning, level adjustments, and, you'll have just a muddy, rough level, sound like this. Right, so it's not sounding great. We're going to mix this, okay? All right, so let's start cleaning some stuff up. I'm just going to kind of work my way from the bottom to the top. Seems to be the easiest. And to start, I usually just do kind of this monotonous work of removing silence. So let's look at these toms. And another thing I'm going to do is take the beginning of all of these out, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sliding audio a little bit. And if you have this butted up all the way against the end, well, it's not going to work the way you want. So just take a little bit off the beginning if your track starts all the way at the beginning, right? Number one. All right, so if you double click these audio tracks, right, let's look at these toms, and you can see that there's a lot of stuff, right? There's bleed. It's picking up the rest of the drum kit, but all we want to do is hear these toms. So if you go over here to functions, there's this feature called remove silence, and you're probably going to want to learn this shortcut, which is Control X. And so if you click that, it's going to open up this box that has to do with removing silence. So you got to kind of play around with these levels, right? And you can see if you slide this down, the blue is what it's keeping, and if you slide it up, you can kind of really hone in on just those hits. So if we look at this audio file, you can see where tom 1 is hitting. So you want to start dragging this down until you see all of the tom hits getting captured. Okay, probably about there is looking pretty good. So that's your threshold, and then there's a minimum time to accept as silence. And if there is a way to zoom in on here, I don't know how to do it, but essentially you want to kind of move this up a little bit, and it's just going to make the duration of these hits a little bit longer. So let's try that, 0.129, okay? So we'll click OK, and then you want to kind of zoom in and just see what it's doing. So let's solo this real quick. All right, so that's a pretty good duration right there. You can see you have the initial attack, and then it kind of fades out. So let's keep that, and then you're just going to basically do this for each one. Now, when I'm recording, I'll periodically stop so that I can do this in sort of chunks, because certain songs may be louder than others. But anyway, you just kind of want to look at this and make sure it's looking good. Now you might see little spikes here. Could that be a tom hit? Yeah, maybe. Oh. So we will try and include that, because it's easier to include more and then delete than it is to try and bring it back, which both are possible, but this is the way I do it. I'd rather have capture a little bit more than I need than not enough. And so as you go through and listen to the songs, you'll be able to tell if we're capturing true hits or not. Yeah, that's one. Okay, so we're just going to go and do that for each one of these. Now, I'll just kind of talk to you as I'm doing this first one, because once you go, so like this will work pretty good for each track, right? So if this is tom 1, you can, once you kind of find that threshold, it's probably going to be pretty good. Like that right there makes you wonder, it might be there. I don't know. You don't really know until you go back and listen to them, but in the interest of doing this fairly quickly and just cleaning these up is the best way to do it. All right, and we go to tom 2. Tell you what, I'm going to go to tom 3 next, and then I'll cut away when I just finish them up to save time on this video. But you know, the waves look a little bit different on this one. So oops, when you go to remove the silence, you may have to adjust this threshold a bit. So I try and do this per track, really. All right, and you can see that those are okay. Right there is capturing pretty much all the hits, so I like that. And with the floor toms, sometimes you might want to just adjust the duration up a little bit, allow for a little bit more of its ring, right? So we'll just do that. And I'll go through and do this to the rest of them, and we'll come back and move to the next spot.
Happened to us any day. How long has this been going on?
Okay, once you're all done with that, it should look kind of like this. Now, toms are probably the easiest thing to do this with. And the only other tracks we need to do this to is going to be vocals. So this red one here is a lead vocal. Whoops. So let's Control X. Now for the vocals, okay. You can see that this little bit here is just bleed from the rest of the room, whereas the higher stuff here is actually vocals. So with vocals, you're going to want to really increase this minimum time to accept as silence, but let's start here and let's just kind of capture just the vocals. So that's looking pretty close. Yeah, something like that. Now watch what happens when you increase this minimum time to accept as silence. We don't really want the vocals cutting in and out. So instead, I'll try and move this up until where the vocal parts are is just a nice solid block. And then, again, it's easier to remove than it is to try and incorporate other stuff. So, you know, we're already here. We're at about 1 second. So every time that it hears a transient at the level that we want, it's going to increase, or it's going to continue playing for about a second. So keep going, we'll keep going until we get some solid chunks for where the vocals are. And you can see just a few of these lines I'd like to fill in, but at some point you're just going to go too far and it's going to be like, nah, you know what, forget it. So, oh, whoops, I hit the wrong one, didn't I? That's okay. You can play with both of these, right, to kind of get it right. Now, that looks pretty good. That's pretty close to what we're going for. You're going to have to adjust as you go, but whatever. So, we got that one, and that should be a pretty good setting for the rest of it, for the most part. So now we can just go ahead, clean up the rest of these. And when I get done with this one, I'm going to show you another thing you kind of have to do. All right, so see this? I'm just going to kind of remove some of that stuff from in there. That looks pretty good. Just a couple more times. Okay. Yeah. Probably like that. All right. Now, very important. I'm going to select all of these And if you come over here underneath more, right? So if you cycle this, you're going to want to fade in. Now you want to do just one for a fade in. Sometimes you might want to fade out just a little bit more, but if you zoom in, you can kind of see how much that is. And really this fade out, it takes a lot to get like a real good fade out. And you're going to see that there's going to be some times where, because we wanted to capture other vocals, there's still this extra silence. So it's kind of manual, it's kind of a pain, but you know, it's worth it for the audio quality in the end, because this bleed can just really make your track sound phasey. And again, we want to do all this for the toms too, same deal. Fade in of 1, and I like to kind of zoom right up to, actually I like to, yeah, we'll do a tom 1, so it's a smaller one, it's going to have less ring, so we'll kind of get that maybe about that much, right? I guess 73. So nice clean hit. All right, and we do that for each track. Now the hardest one to do is up here. So here's the drummer's track, and this one is going to give you a lot of false positives. A lot of times I end up just having to do this manually, and I'll either look at the background vocals that are here and just match them up and manually cut this, because if you try and do this, it can be done, but you can see what happens.
The minstrel show. Trying to be a star and make them laugh.
Right? So we know that that's all good stuff to keep. I might just literally manually go in and do that. Because, right, this is louder than that is. So this method doesn't always work too good for that. You might have to physically go in here and just do it manually. So anyway, I wanted to show you that. I'm not going to bore you. We'll come back after I get done cleaning those up, and we'll move on.
Until I found a way to love, it's harder said than done. Let it rain.
Okay, so now we've got everything cleaned up pretty well. Actually, I'm just going to quickly make sure that each of these have fade in and outs. Yeah. Now, if some have manual fades, you'll see this little asterisk in here. It's okay. You can still just say I want 1 for everything that's not already established, right? And kind of the same thing for the others. So that will go through and just put those fades at the beginning and the end so that you don't get any clicks or pops. All right, so first up, I'll start with drums. And I think the easiest way is to just start in this order. It's kind of the way that I order my drums is, let's start with the overheads and see what they're doing. Now, it's important to get these even. You can adjust the gain and get it pretty close, but for whatever reason, I find I pretty much always have to, you know, adjust the level of these. And one way I like to do it, if you're listening there at home, is think about your snare. I mean, yeah, kick and snare, but really just your snare. As you adjust the level of the left or the right, the snare is going to go between the left and the right speaker, and we want that thing to be dead in the center so everything matches up and it's got the most punch that it can do. Another thing that we might as well start right now is if you zoom this in, now your mic placement is critical, right? And I always take a measurement from the center of the snare to the capsule of the overhead mics, and you just want to check this, that right the phase is good, and when it goes down on the left, it goes down on the right, vice versa. So I've got those pretty well there, so I don't think we need to adjust anything, but as far as moving them for phase, but let's listen. Okay, and let's start listening for that snare to come into the center. Okay. And I mean, you don't want to rely on the meters. They're helpful, but they don't tell the whole story, so you got to use your ears here. All right. So that's pretty good. Again, hard pan left and right. And in order to clean this up, I'm going to add an EQ. And we're just going to try and take out, I don't know, maybe up to 100. So you don't want, it's picking up the kick here, okay? Hear all that rumble? We need to get rid of it. I mean, this one that's sounding like 150 is going to be pretty good. So that'll clean this up significantly, because next we're going to move to the kick. And what I did is I just copied the same EQ. You don't want to go crazy with EQ yet. You want to do the basics and then listen and see what else it needs. All right, so let's move to the kick. On the kick, you could go in and remove silence, but I think it's a waste of time. I think that it's probably best, if you need to, is to use a gate. And so you can come in here, get a noise gate, and kind of set the threshold you want for that. And this release time is pretty important, as well as the hold. Usually the hold kind of comes good. And I mean, you can come here and grab presets, right? You could start with a percussion one and see how that does. They don't always work. But it kind of helps you with how much hold and release, maybe. Now let's turn this up. Okay. And this attack time, if you notice there was a bit of almost distortion happening, you might have to adjust this attack time up a bit. But that's the big thing there, is when you've got like 3 hits like this in a row. Let's listen to this 3 hit coming up here. Trying to minimize snare bleed. Okay, and you can always mess with that later. But now let's do an EQ, and the EQ can go before the gate. That's fine. I always take out some of the ridiculously low stuff here, like under 40 maybe. And then there's going to be somewhere around this 100 area that's going to add a lot of mud. Right? That's not pleasing, so we're going to pull that out. And we're going to make up for it by boosting a little on the top end. Help that kick cut a little better. I like a nice broad. Okay, so before. And I think I'm going to have to adjust that gate a little bit too. Okay, that was pretty good. All right, moving on to the snare. Now, this is all down to taste. It's really hard to EQ the full snare because every song you might want something different, but we're just getting a general overall level. And I'm just listening if there's any real muddy stuff. This isn't real pleasing right there, so we're just gonna take just a little bit of that out. Not too much. Definitely want to get rid of some bleed, but we don't want to kill the body of the snare, right? So we can test that. So anyway, that's a good starting spot. So that's that 57, and then you saw that I had this pencil condenser. See, it's got a lot more high end. Like when you blend them together. It kind of adds a little bit more ring and ping to the sound. So sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. But you'll see all this down here, that's gotta go. That's gotta go. And I think I'm gonna even make that a pretty steep. So we'll just do that for now, come back and adjust it to tape. Alright. Toms. Find maybe like a nice run of them and just put that on repeat so we can hear what's going on. And I don't know, for me, I don't do a lot of EQ on toms. I mean, there's going to be some mud. Somewhere around there is a little bit unpleasing, but then I might actually boost the low a little. Right? I mean, nothing crazy. Tom 2. Sometimes it's easier just to get one hit and okay, I'm going to move this one down a bit. See that fundamental? And this one has mud more in the 400 range. We want a little attack. Okay, so I don't know, something like that. Once you hear it all together, this is just kind of set up still, guys. Next up, we want to do Tom 3. Okay. Same thing. We're looking for the real nice frequencies to boost. And the nasty ones to cut. And this one, I don't even want to cut a lot. This might need to move up. Alright, so that's not too bad. Now, let's listen to the whole kit. Alright, so that's already a lot better, right? Like if I take all these EQs out. just cleaning it up. Okay, and then we do kind of a basic level balance. So try and find a steady part of the song. And it's still a little bit of sort of mud to this kick sound. I might have to but you see how it might sound good soloed, but when you put it all together, it's not doing so good. Whoops. There we go. And we're going to leave this snare 603 off. Okay, toms maybe a hair loud. So let's pull them down a little. Okay, we're going to pause there and come back and move on to the bass.
My car got repossessed this morning.
All right, another thing on drums here is phase. Now, let's take a look at our kick drum and how the phase relation is to the overheads. So we know the overheads are aligned and in phase, but right, these overheads are a further distance away from the kit than, let's say, a close mic. So typically what you're going to have to do is move your kick to the spot where it makes, where you see, right, the top and bottom of the waveform. Like, here's a pretty good one, I think. Let's just listen to that real quick. So our overheads to the kick. All right. And you want to move these waveforms so that you see how it's going up here. An important thing to do is to click this track here so that you grab the whole thing, and we're going to kind of move this back, right? So that when it's going up here, this is going up, going down, etc. And let's listen to it before and after. Just go to there. So here's before. We'll just say undo. And then let's see what it does after. So it's a little more punchy, and that means a lot, especially for something like the kick. We want to do the same thing for our snare. So we'll highlight both the 57 and the 603, zoom into our waveform, and you can see again, because it's a close mic, it's coming in earlier than the overheads. So I like to move my cursor right to where it goes up, and we'll take both of these and move our cursor right to where it goes up, and that should do it. And you can see it's kind of much better in phase now. Yeah, I know some guys will hit the phase button, but I just like to do it this way. So now let's try kick and snare. So that's after. Here's before. All right, like you hear how that's just it's not clear. It's kind of muddy. And then if you move it, Listen to just how much louder and more present that snare gets. All right, so that's pretty much all I'll do. You can do this with the toms. You know, you probably should do it individually for each one. So again, you want to make sure you highlight every tom track, and you want to line that up with the overheads. That's not a great example. That's the other trick to this, is really just finding a good specimen. But anyway, I think you get the idea. So you can see it goes up right there. Like that's the top of the hit, and this is clearly behind it. So we'll highlight all of the tom ones, and we'll move this to be right in the top for the overheads. And you want to make sure you're going to the overheads. You don't want to do it to a snare track or something else, because it might not be as accurate. Okay, here goes tom 2. And kind of get to the center where it's going up there. It's not going to be perfect, right? That's just the nature of the beast. But we can certainly line these up a little bit better. Make sure everything's highlighted. Move that to the top, like that. And one more. I try and get these big spikes because you can see them a lot better. Okay, we're looking at this tom. Go ahead and find, yeah, because depending on which overhead is picking it up, it could be shorter or longer, so don't worry too much about it. Just try and get it in the ballpark, right? And we know that this yeah, this one's a little tricky. I mean, you know it's got to kind of move at least a little bit. We're going to try and match this up to overhead right. So right there is where it goes down. Kind of do like that. Okay? And then you can kind of listen to the before and after that, but you get the picture. You just got to trust me. All right. Next up, bass. For bass guitar, again, I did not record the amp. We're going all direct. The way I like to do this, create 3 copies. Copy it. Make sure, yeah, see that didn't. You just want to copy it down. Make sure it's in line, just like that. All right, now I'm going to rename these. So I like to break this down into bass lows, bass highs, and then we might, yeah, that's fine. And then bass, you might want to add some distortion, but let's do one at a time. So we're going to, whoops. So we're going to just filter off everything above, let's just call it 250. And you want to get these exact so you know the number, right? So let's just do 252. The other thing is we don't want the bass to interfere with the kick drum much. Fundamentals on the kick drum are usually between 50 and 60. So I might roll off everything under 50. And you see this curve, it's even capturing some of that 60 there. But a lot of this bass fundamental tones are going to be right around 80. So it's okay to kill everything below that. And just maybe a little boost there for some nice lows. All right, and then we're going to do the inverse to the bass highs, whereas we're going to take all the lows out up to 250, and we're just going to keep everything above that. And then you want to find sort of a nice frequency. Sometimes like 400 can be pretty nice, or like 1K. I think we're going to boost a little at 4. Now it's together. And the reason why we do this is we want to compress them individually. So I'm going to come over here, grab our Logic compressor, and we'll just start at a stock, you know, probably like a light bass style compression. 4:1 ratio. And this is going to make sure that that low end stays at a nice consistent volume throughout the track. There's a little bit of, so the preset has a little bit of distortion. I like it. You can take it off, but I think it adds a nice character. You can go as hard or as soft as you want. I wouldn't go above soft for the lows. The highs you might want to do more. And let's see, so our release time and attack. So attacking later kind of gets that initial transient, but you don't want it to fluctuate too much. So I'm going to pull it down a little. Release around between 40 and 50 is usually pretty good. So let's try that. And let's compress this as well. And you know what? I think we're just going to copy this compressor I have here over. And I'm going to add a little more threshold because this is where you're really just want to kind of feel it, you know. Okay, so I kind of like the hard distortion on that one. Alright, so here's both of them together. And you can blend them, so if it's not cutting, you can just kind of squeak that up. But we'll try them about even at first and see where we go. And then lastly, this one, you know, you're trying to simulate an amp, I suppose. So I might kill off a lot of this low end. Maybe start dipping it out there. And I'll take some of this high end out too. And we're going to just add a little bit of flavor, a little distortion or something. So you can just grab whatever your favorite distortion is, or overdrive. Yeah. The Logic ones are cool because you can kind of choose the fundamental tone that you want. I mean, that's kind of nice right there, right? And again, we're just going to kind of blend this in. So let's get the other two rocking. It's a really nice, dry, clean signal. Right, so you can hear with and without it. Now, I have these. They're not going stereo out to the main master. They're going to bus 4, which is bass. Here's another little trick for cleaning up the bass and kick relation. Is you want to, and actually before I do this, I'm gonna just listen to the kick again in case, because I didn't put any compression on the kick yet, and I think it could probably use some. So let's just pull up our compressor. We'll just pick our favorite. You got to be careful because it can accentuate whatever that gate's doing there. Not always a good thing. And you want to have a pretty low attack on this, I think. Depends on the track, but all right, so if we listen to our bass, okay, aside from being really loud, and we're going to adjust the bass volume here at this auxiliary channel so that this isn't, I mean, these are already pretty low, so kind of get that. But you'll notice that the kick kind of disappears. The bass overshadows it, and the best way to combat that is to grab a compressor and sidechain it. So we're going to sidechain this compressor to our kick drum, and I like to look for this number, -5. So this means that every time the kick hits, that it's going to duck the bass a little bit, and we need at least a 4-to-1 ratio. Kind of play with this until you hear the kick coming back to life here. I'm going to pull that release time down a little bit. Okay, so that helps the kick really stick out a little bit better. And again, I mean, there's still a little bit muddy here on this kick. And it could, let's just... yeah, there's somewhere in this bass that's a little bit... might pull a little of that out. Okay, so that's pretty much it for kick and bass. Before we leave the drums, one last thing I did not mention was parallel compression. So, I mean, our drums are sounding pretty good, but we can do better than that. So we're gonna add a compressor here. I forget if there is a maybe something like drum mix to get us started. Now, when you do a parallel compression on the drums, what we're going for is a really high ratio. Like, you want to crush these things because you want them to be real nice and even and really poke out a really low attack time. I don't know, That's pretty good. And you can do a pretty long release time. Alright. Go ahead and hit that hard if you want. Alright, so before, after. Now it's pumping, you know. And this is not your final drum sound, it's just you blend this in with it. So here's let's blend it in. Okay, so without it, with it. So again, once we get to final mixing, this may change. You may pull more or less out, but it's kind of set up and ready to go. So let's move on to keys and guitar. These are pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's just all direct signal. We do want to cut out any real low rumble that's going to interfere with our kick and bass. Now, sometimes I cheat and I'll use a Waves plugin. I really like the CLA like guitar one because it just kind of comes with everything you need. But in keeping and doing this with just DAW stuff, some people do a lot of stuff. What I like to do is just put on this stereo spread. So let's hear the drums. Inherently things are going to build up in this region, so I try and just get ahead of it as we go, and you can kind of hear that cleans the keys a little bit. And then having the stereo spread, if you know, this plugin is cool because when you bounce it to mono, it doesn't, you know, sometimes you might want to pan guitar left and keys right. There's things you can do. What I found is I really like doing just this stereo spread on both of them and adjusting to taste. So sometimes I pan, sometimes I do this, but this is a surefire way that when you listen in mono, that you're not going to get phase issues. Especially with a live recording. Again, remember the guitar mic is picking up the rest of the room, right? So there could be these keys interfering, that could be interfering with the drums, and if you just use this stereo spread, it makes sure the phase is intact. So we want to kill a lot of the bottom end from the guitar. You really don't need much below 100. I like to add a little presence to the guitar. Around 1 or 2K is kind of nice. Depends on the track. Now, we might want to so let's say the guitar is boosted at about 1K. We might want to pull the keys out at that frequency. Maybe give it a little more up top. more separation between tracks as well. So now they're kind of evenly spread and doing a spread thing between the two speakers, and we've cut out problem frequencies. Again, once we hear the whole mix, we could that could change, but it's pretty good for now. So all right, next up we're moving to vocals.
You're never gonna get enough. You can buy it high, but you'll never be satisfied. Woo!
Okay, here we are at vocals. A thing to mention too is, as I was listening back to that last video, is the sound you're hearing is not only the computer audio of what we're doing, but the mic picking it up as I'm going through here. So just bear with that, and I'll give you the final at the end. But anyway, so when we first started, we talked about templates. Now, when it comes to live vocals like this, with a dynamic mic and a ton of bleed, as far as stock plugins, okay, EQ, yeah, we gotta kill the bottom. And I've kind of identified these problem frequencies, gave it some boosts, all right. A de-esser. Because vocals are so finicky, and they're really kind of the highlight of the track, I'm going to use this Waves de-esser because I like it better. So there. The other thing I'm going to use from Waves is two other things. Number one, Vocal Rider. I haven't found a plugin that does what this does. Now, the dynamic mic, it's just, well, you can hear it for yourself. In a traveling minstrel show. Yeah, out to the Southland. See, so it's taking the highs, making them lower, taking the lows, making them higher. Another one is just so good is the CLA vocal plugin, so I just throw that on. The Southland, in a traveling minstrel show. Fair bit of compression, a little bit of reverb, and this is the stereo. That stereo thing kind of does the same as this widening, or the spread on the Logic plugin. But if we're doing this quick, this is the and then to further sort of balance the high spots, if you go to a different song, hoping you fade, oh, you know it. Well, we can laugh our lives away really and be 53 now, tell Captain Ride upon your mystery ship. Be no more bad love. Okay, so this is sort of louder parts here, and we want to try and knock off the real loudness and bring that down. No more bad love. I've had enough. I'm bad love. But it's too late to say you're sorry. How would I know? Jones and who knows? I'm getting tired. Okay, so here's before. Please don't bother trying to find her. And here's after. Please don't bother trying to find her. She's not there. When it comes to live, the only thing you can do is balance the high and low parts of the vocal with compression. And of course, like I said, this Vocal Rider is just an invaluable tool for doing that. I haven't found a Logic plugin that does that. So, all right. And very much more the same for the other two. You know, some of these are backgrounds. Baby. Uh-oh. Well, we won't keep that one. Yeah, anyway. And see how there'll be false readings on these sometimes because that's just a loud part of the song. It's picking up room. Okay. Anyway, so you got to clean stuff up, but backgrounds I won't do too much on. But let's take a listen to this one. I'll just spend time on this one for a second. So this is that drum mic again. There's going to be a lot of bleed on this. Let's go to one where it's in the song.
Ride, Captain, ride.
Right here.
Bad love.
Okay.
I know. Bad love.
Now one thing is I've got this panned left and then this background panned right. Let's listen to them both together.
Enough. Bad love. Had enough.
Dang it.
Bad love.
The other thing you want to do is isolate this as much as you can because all that bleed is going to add up to the rest of the track and not sound great.
Had enough.
Okay, this one's a little
Bad
loud.
love.
Kind of pull that down, and I'm just gonna add a limiter.
Bad love.
Again, I prefer this one.
Had enough. Bad love.
Okay. This one, again, I have this all part of the template
Bad love.
because I've already figured out what this needs.
Had enough. Bad love.
Okay, and we just want to see the relation to the main vocals.
Love. A bad love. I need something I can be proud of. I've had enough. A bad love.
Right? So again, all we're doing here is a lot of more of the same. You need a vocal rider, kill some of the lows in there. You can adjust it, whatever you need, but a limiter, and then again, I like this L2. Sometimes I'll add some reverb or whatever. So, with that said, we should have a fairly roughed in mix, but now it's time to rebalance the levels again. It's kind of this continuous cycle of balancing the levels, listening for problems, and solving the problems. Don't just put things on because you think you need to. Sometimes less is more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of do some balancing, and we'll come back for a final mix and thoughts, and we'll hear what it sounds like before and after.
Let it rain. Let it rain. Let your love rain down on me.
All right, now that we've got sort of the basics down, what I'm going to do next is it's time to kind of do an actual mix on this. And to do that, one thing I do like to do is to take all of our vocals, send them to a bus. Okay, so we will call this the vocals, right? Stereo bus. So we've got vocals, bass, and then these drum buses here. And it's really helpful to just be able to turn like one element up or down. And we don't really need to do that for guitar or keys because they are just a single track, the guitar being a mono, one microphone, and the keys being a stereo input. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to just focus in on one track. So I think we've been doing Pretzel Logic. And so we'll go to that one. And we're going to start by just soloing the drums and make sure the drums are sounding good to us, get the bass levels matched, and just work our way up. So here we go. Now, gain staging is very important. Because we know this is going to get louder or softer, I'm going to bring this down. I try to keep this below 12 for the normal peaks and stuff. So that's a great place to start. All right, so we'll add the bass in. Now, one thing So I'm gonna reduce this a little bit. I'm gonna push the attack up a little bit. Move the release down. Okay, so that's sounding a little better. Now this is one of the hardest things to get right, is sort of your low end bass and kick and that. But we're doing levels, so that's pretty good. Let's add in keys. I like to pull them way down and start to pull them back in until they're a little too loud and back them off. I think I'm going to add some compression to these keys because you can hear at spots they get a little bit lost. So we'll add a quick compressor, maybe see if we can find a... No, I don't like that. Let that initial attack come through by having a little higher attack, and then we'll mess up a little bit. So it's just kind of knocking some of those louder parts down, make it a little more even. So let's rebalance the level. I think I kind of want a little more sparkle in here too. Sounded pretty good, and we'll get the guitar going. I'm trying not to cheat as much as possible, but I just listen to what this does. Let's turn the spread off. So this is kind of a one and all plug-in. Keep it clean. So here's like. Adds a little bit of reverb. I like the hall. And there's the stereo spread bit there too. So that's nice. Alright, let's balance this. This song, I almost want a little bit more of that reverb, juicy good hall. Now this will be a good time to talk about reverb. I have another bus here that's drum verb, okay, and you can use whatever you like. Let's use a Logic reverb, and maybe something like the Chroma verb. And this is to taste. We're just going to listen to just the drums for a second, and we're going to hit it hard. So if you hold Option and click, and I should do it for all of them. I don't know. So we just turn it on like that, and then put these to full, so you can really hear what the reverb is doing. want this to be 100% wet, and no dry. Whoops, I put that on the wrong one. Here. Yeah, I figured that would be a little sus. Now, probably that's a little too large. Remember, we want it to sound kind of natural. Okay. That's with it. It's without it. Now, the other thing is EQing. We don't want to do too much of this low end, having a lot of reverb. Okay, so without. Now, because we're all in the same room, would it make sense maybe just to send the highs of the bass also to this reverb? And I find that usually around 13 is nice just for a blend. And I'm not going to send the lows because I wouldn't be doing much anyway. Alright, let's give the keys a little bit of verb. We're just using the same reverb. So before we had this hall on the guitar, which is fine. Sometimes, you know, having two reverbs can be nice. But, you know, the final call is after I'm done recording this and we sit down and critically listen and fix any last minute stuff. But okay, that's pretty good. Alright, let's take everything off of solos. Oh, how'd that happen? Oh, something else is soloed here. Oh. Alright, let's balance the vocals. We're going to send them to that. Oh, yeah. So we can control the volume of the vocals here, as well as add any type of compression, gluing, or anything else that we need.
In a traveling minstrel show, 'cause I'm dying to be a star and make them laugh. It sound just like the record on a phonograph. Those days are gone forever, over a long time ago.
Gotta hate that.
Yes, I do, because he looks so fine upon that hill. They tell me he was lonely.
Alright, so the reverb, you can like hear it quite a bit, so we're just gonna pull this down a little bit.
Yes, I do, because he looks so fine upon that hill. They tell me he was lonely.
We'll add the vocals to that drum bus reverb as well, but just a little.
Yes, I do, because he looks so fine upon that hill. They tell me he was lonely, his loneliness
let's get one that has all the vocals here.
Ride, Captain, ride.
Okay, that's practice. Let's try this one.
Ride, Captain, ride upon your mystery ship. Be amazed at the friends you have here on your trip. Ride, Captain, ride upon your mystery ship. On your way to a world that others might have missed.
So turn the vocals down just a hair.
Captain, ride upon your mystery ship.
Maybe a little more.
Be amazed at the friends you have here on your trip.
I also hear a little too much boominess in this lead vocal.
Captain, ride upon your mystery ship. Be amazed at the friends you have here on your trip. Ride, Captain, ride upon your mystery ship. On your way to a world that others might have missed.
All right. Well, I guess we got to work on that song, huh? Well, that's why we do this. All right. Well, aside from some real simple critical listening and fixing little minor things, hopefully that gives you, a good idea of what it takes to mix all together in a room. So I'll take another, 20 minutes, half hour, and just critically listen without talking and finalize it, and I'll give you a before and an after. And as always, stay tuned for more content from here. So thanks for watching.
Well, I saw him on the TV, a movie show. They say the times are changing, but I just